New question, the Leader of the Opposition.
Well, you know, Mr. Speaker, we can play this shell game all we want. A tax is a tax is a tax, whether you call it a carbon tax or not, Premier. Premier, during the back to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. Premier, during the last election, you called cuts to education dangerous for children. In fact, you said cuts to education funding were detrimental and have such a negative impact on so many people's lives in this province that you would never support them. And yet you're now planning to cut $500 million from the education budget because of your fiscal mismanagement. You claimed these cuts were dangerous during the election, yet now your government is taking millions of dollars out of the classroom. So, Premier, is this just another case of you saying one thing and then doing another?
Premier.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is that our government has increased funding to the education system every single year we've been in office, Mr. Speaker, and we're continuing to do that. We've increased education funding to $22 billion this year, Mr. Speaker. That's an increase of 56.5% since 2003, an increase of more than $4,000 per student. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, that we have made sure that the resources that go into education go into to advance student achievement, Mr. Speaker. We came into office and 68% of kids were graduating from high school in this province. 83% of kids are graduating from high school in Ontario now, Mr. Speaker. The reality is that at a time of declining enrollment, we have continued to increase funding to the education system because we know that that's how the talent and skills of our kids can thrive, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary.
Again to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. Premier, your former Liberal colleague and successor as Education Minister Leona Dombrowski said that, quote, the government believes locally elected school boards have sound processes in place to make decisions about school closures in consultation with their communities. And you've said similar things many times. Yet yesterday, your current Education Minister made it pretty clear in this House that you will not fund undercapacity schools, leaving the impression that the minister will make the decision on which schools will close. So, Premier, which is it? Will individual school boards decide which schools will close, if any, or will you order the school closings yourself?
Excellent. Well, in fact, what I heard the Minister of Education say was that we have to make sure that we fund the students and the places in the schools, the students that exist, Mr. Speaker, that we make sure that we work with school boards to maximize the investments in their school boards, to make sure that the programs that are available to kids are the ones that they absolutely need. I fully support, I've been a school trustee, Mr. Speaker, I fully support the authority of school boards to make decisions about program delivery to students, Mr. Speaker, but it is only responsible that we work as a provincial government with school boards, something I might say the member opposite doesn't know a lot about, given their track record in government, but that we work with school boards to make sure that the distribution of kids is in schools in the best way possible, and that we're not funding empty or half-empty schools, Mr. Speaker.
Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I don't need any lectures after 24.5 years in this House, serving school boards, preaching for good education and supporting good education. Premier, as Education Minister, you said, quote, it would in fact be irresponsible.
Stop the clock, please. Order. Please finish.
As Education Minister, you said it would in fact be irresponsible for any government to tie the hands of local school boards to make decisions about their communities. However, by slashing $500 million from the education budget, you're doing exactly that. You're
Minister of the Environment, come to order.
Particularly in rural and small-town Ontario, a done deal. Premier, very simply, when will you release the list of the schools you're planning to close?
Excellent. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, let me repeat. We are increasing funding to the education system. In the face of declining enrollment, we are increasing the funding to school boards. That's the fact. That is the reality. That is the reality that school boards are dealing with. Will we continue to work with school boards to make sure that kids are getting the programs that they need, that there are enough kids in schools to make them viable? Absolutely. We will continue to work with school boards. Will we work with school boards to help them to consolidate where there's an opportunity for school boards to work together? Absolutely. Absolutely, we will do that. I think that that is responsible management of the public dollars in this province. Will we continue to work with school boards to improve student achievement, as we have done, Mr. Speaker, and we have seen student achievement increase? Absolutely, we will do that. Will we fund empty spaces?
Answer.
And will we step back from the process? No, we will continue to work with school boards, Mr. Speaker.